and the likes of Meridian Energy.
I call Tracy Martin.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, every now and then it's worthwhile to state the obvious. And I think I'm probably repeating the obvious, but let's be clear. This motion is only necessary because Meridian Energy Limited has been partially sold by the national government. So let's be 100% clear, that's why the motion's needed. And it is our view, sir, that the sale of Meridian Energy Limited was completely contrary to New Zealand's national interest. This notice of motion merely cements the fact that a national government has been a complete and utter disaster for the New Zealand electricity system. The national government took a functional, essentially sound system run by a government department and destroyed it. Starting with Max Bradford's theory-driven, ideologically based, so-called reforms, they have foisted a total dog's breakfast upon the New Zealand public, and this motion shows that they have learnt nothing. This madness, the folly that keeps on taking, continues. After over 5 years in government, the National Party has brought absolutely zero improvement to this sector. The Minister's opening speech merely reinforced that this national government are still addicted to the market, however much of fantasy that is, especially in the electricity generation and distribution sector. So through the sale that necessitated this motion, what do we actually have to thank this national government for? Firstly, high electricity prices for New Zealanders, despite, as Mr Parker just said, New Zealand as a nation having a great advantage in renewable energy sources, notably hydropower. A huge comparative advantage that has been squandered. We now have a system that is only good for generating higher prices for the long-suffering consumer. We now have a system of mind-numbing, bewildering complexity, under which any sort of price hike can be rationalised and justified. Thanks to a national government, the electricity sector is now so bewildering, so arcane, so impenetrable, that it needs an army of consultants in business. Thanks to a national government, we have a proliferation of organisations in this sector. We have an explosion of management and CEOs, all generating immense cost and justifying their existence. Recently, we had the absurd spectacle of the Electricity Authority trying to tell us that night was actually day. They claimed that a study of power charges over the last 30 years show that, and I quote, in the past, consumers were hugely undercharged for their electricity. This breathtaking claim was, of course, immediately exposed for the nonsense that it was by objective and independent commentators. But this is typical of the Orwellian doublespeak that now characterises the official party line on the electricity sector. Many a National Party spin doctor would be proud at the audacity of the Electricity Authority's ability to rewrite history. And with the $230,000 that Dr Brent Layton receives as chairperson of the board of Meridian, and the $270,000 that the CEO Carl Hansen receives, along with an additional $48,000 possible performance bonus, the New Zealand public are quite right to ask what actual value does the Electricity Authority provide. But of course no national minister has any interest in the real truth, and the truth is that over the past decade electricity prices have risen at twice the rate of inflation. National's asset sales program, including the part sale of Meridian, has been an act of economic sabotage. It is nothing less than an economic crime. And it is no exaggeration to say that the sale of public energy assets like Meridian have been an exercise in robbing the people of New Zealand to favour a few. And we pick up the point that Mr Parker made around water. When I was recently in the Republic of China, a local minister asked me, how will you defend your water when the water crisis comes? We don't need an army to try and come and take our water, sir. The national government has started selling our access to it through partial privatisation of our rivers, through the partial privatisation of our power companies. Electricity supply is fundamental to society and the economy. It is the basis of our standard of living. Yet instead of creating electricity policy on the basis of the common good, on the basis of the national interest, the national government has used it to loot the public. So this motion, sir, is a meaningless procedural gesture. It is an insult to the public. After all the damage this national government has done to an essential part of New Zealand's infrastructure, New Zealand First will strongly oppose this motion.
Mr. Speaker.
I call David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This motion, sir, is opposed by the Labour Party because